Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Via Williams.
And I'm Wendy Papazian.
I'm Seychelle Van Poole.
And I'm Sarah Reynolds. Today, we are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, because the truth is that without relationships, there is no trust. Day after day, people do not come to work just to punch a time clock, especially when you're in an entrepreneurial business like we are. They come to work for a person or, of course, for a group of people. And for them to give it their absolute best, right? We want to make sure that our people give it their absolute best. And also we get their absolute best out of them. They must have relationships with their leader. So I've made it my personal mission to have meaningful relationships with those that I lead. And honestly, as your empire grows, it becomes harder and harder. And so I would love to dive into how we can make that happen today. But we spend an incredible amount of time with the people we work with. So why not build relationships with them?
Why not?
That was a good book.
I just want to jump in here and share a little bit of a story because this is where I've completely failed as a leader. And it's probably where now the opposite of fail. What is it? Succeed?
It's a superpower.
What's the opposite of fail? Let me think about a word.
Not fail.
Not fail. Succeed. Because I failed so badly at this. And, I basically had an 85% team turnover years back when I was, in more beginning stages of forming my first real estate team. And I look back at the pattern of people who left, and it was pretty clear that it was because they didn't feel like I cared for them. They didn't feel like I invested in them or cared about them. And they thought that they represented numbers to me, right? And I think that in retrospect, while in my head, I deeply cared about them, I think they were right that I was not showing that. And I wasn't really spending my time on them. So while I thought I cared, I wasn't really demonstrating it, to them and on my calendar and in my words and my actions.
Yep. And I've seen so much growth in you, Via, in this area, honestly. And now you're literally one of the most relational leaders. And it's been honestly beautiful to watch. I do want to say one thing and add sort of a little story here. I actually was speaking about her this morning. I had a manager in college. I used to work at New York & Company. And she led the way in knowing that she cared about me. But at the same time, we were not best friends. So what we're talking about today, which is a talent, by the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're leading, you do have to, at times, hold them accountable. And you can't always be best friends. But at the same time, your people need to know you care about them. And she did that by far. And I was able to watch her at a really young age and learn from her. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How can you do that, right? And really, it comes down to there's about eight steps we found in terms of really leading through relationships and showing the people that you care. And in turn, this is how you keep your top people as well.
So we'll go ahead and jump in with number one. And number one begins with understanding your team's story, understanding your people's story. And if you're, like we talked about in a previous episode, right? Like taking them through a hiring process that you're really getting to know your people in the beginning, you should have a great jumping off point of getting to know their story. But let's pretend maybe you didn't do that. You hired all these people, you don't know all of their stories. Today is a great time to start getting to know someone's history and background, because until you really understand where somebody's coming from, it's really difficult to build that trust and rapport. And a great example that I can give you guys of this is on our team. Marie, who's now been with us 18 years, comes from a nonprofit background, actually, before coming to real estate. And so by understanding where she came from, understanding where she grew up, which was on a farm in East Texas, right? And understanding her family dynamics of what makes her tick, it allows me then when we're working with clients or working through difficult situations to understand where her trigger points are and to work through those together and see those in a long-term relationship instead of maybe looking at things as a black, white, good, bad, right, wrong. It's more of a dynamic that we have, understanding that she comes first from a servant heart of a nonprofit world. I understand that if there's a problem, it's usually because she's trying to help something and she's trying to move the ball forward on it from a servant heart perspective instead of trying to just do something that's right or wrong. So understanding their backgrounds, I think, helps us a lot with understanding when something goes awry, right? How we can make that right.
Yep.
Yeah, when I came into my new role, well, it's not new anymore. I've been here 2.5 years. So
Yeah.
it still feels new.
Time flies.
I know. I know. I came into a new organization, but I think that anyone could reboot and do this. And my first 4 weeks, all I did was meet with people.
Yeah.
And the most important people, meaning the most direct report to me, I spent like half days offsite with them and I hardly talked. All I did was ask questions and listen. I got there. It's like, tell me your life story.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And I would, drill down 2 and 3 deep. We did behavioral analysis. We used assessments, behavioral assessments. We did that. And I essentially rehired them, what you might go through in a long hiring process. And that was their first interaction with me. Most of them was me listening to them, spending 3 to 4 hours, literally doing nothing else, phones down, focused on them, eyeball to eyeball. And it was such a different foundation to my relationship with my people from where I had come from before. But what I wanted to also share is that I pepper in, day to day. I have some really good questions that I pepper in because sometimes, our people come to us and they're discontented.
Hold on, Via. I'm gonna stop you real quick. Sorry, because I know what you're about to say, which is awesome. But I think the setting of the stage of the relationship is super important.
Yes.
And I don't want to skip over that because the most powerful question that I ask people right when I sit down is, what's your story? Tell me the Wendy story.
I love it.
Tell me the Via story. Tell me the Seychelles story. And it actually came from, go to YouTube and Google Chick-fil-A, Everyone Has a Story. And they did a beautiful job of telling in a short few minutes how everyone you interact with has a story. And if you can take time to find out who they are and what their story is, honestly, the foundation of that relationship it's hard to crack that. Meaning, talk about keeping your people. When you start off with caring about who they are, having them talk for 30 minutes about what makes up who they are, it makes such a difference. Such a difference.
And I would just add that in the age of COVID and everyone working virtual, this is a lot harder. So we have to work
much harder.
We have to work a lot harder at it.
So
we have
true.
to be a lot more purposeful. If you've got people in your team who've joined in the last year, they're not going to feel as connected.
So true.
As everybody when we were in the office and laughing and joking and bumping into each other on the way to the bathroom and things like that. So it's super important, especially right now.
So true.
Well, and then moving on to our next thing that we need to do is we really need to learn what makes them tick, which is different than understanding their story. Understanding their story is where they came from, but really learning what makes them tick is kind of their strengths and their weaknesses. And you can do this in a number of ways. So our team recently did Strength Finders, which was super powerful for our leadership team, really great. And then we committed to pulling out that Strength Finders before every leadership meeting so we could get to know each other. And it's been probably the most powerful thing that we did this year together as a team because, human bias is to think that you're awesome and everybody else is somewhat flawed. And really, in order to have a great team, you got to have different, that's our human bias.
Yeah.
And so really understanding all the pieces of the puzzle and where your weaknesses are is really important.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did this year was love languages.
That's a huge one.
And so just understanding what people's love languages are. Are they someone who likes to receive a gift? Are they someone who really needs a lot of, pepping up with language? Do you need time together?
Acts of service.
Yep.
I mean, my director of growth, her love language is really time.
Yeah.
And, I told her,
too.
I said, listen, you have more time scheduled on my calendar than anybody else, even in my family.
Yep.
And for her, that was,
Huge.
That just made her, heart 10 times bigger. And then behavioral styles, right? Are you kind of a high D aggressive person? And that goes back to strengths too. My director of operations, her number one strength is harmony.
Yeah.
So
that's my director of ops too. Look.
Oh, really?
Same here.
Have all the same
It's so
strengths
great.
so far.
Well, it's so great when you have a fierce empire builder.
That you need the harmony.
Exactly. So all of
that
those
is not
things,
my number one strength, FYI.
Yeah,
No,
can
not
help
mine.
you.
I think it's 36.
No, mine was in the 30s. Yeah.
I think the key here is to build the relationship how also they want to build the relationship, right?
That's the key part.
And so like the love languages for me, when we did that, it was like eye-opening. I knew then when like at times when I had to cancel like a one-on-one with someone and they acted really like upset. And then I found out their love language was quality time. And I was like, ooh, like, no wonder you were upset. I just smacked you in the face by canceling our quality time. So yeah.
That's, it's such a good realization. After having like a lot of fail forwards last year, I came to realize that a lot of the love languages of our team is awards and recognition. And as like a high D entrepreneur, I kind of blow through goals and like kind of give a high five and then move on. And so for us, it was like getting really intentional about hitting the milestones and recognizing them, planning monthly awards, which we had never done in our company before, and taking time to really make sure we were publicly and privately recognizing people.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little later, but that love language, I completely missed the boat on and had no idea that so many of our team members really needed that. And so slowing down to pay attention to that in the last year has been a big difference maker for us in our culture to bring that back.
So true.
Great.
Oh,
well, number three. Number three is
connect. To say something at this point.
Yes, you are. Yes, connect on social media.
Connect with them on social media. Yep, absolutely. So what I do in a simple sort of hack around this is I have a list on Facebook of all of our team members. And every day I pull up the list and I like, love, comment on their social media and what's going on in their world, what's going on in their life. And I do my best if I see them, or now in COVID times, I send them a personal text message. So get off social media and tie in whatever they posted on social media, but just making sure that we care about their entire life, which a lot of times they share that on social media.
And there's just two tactical ways to do that. One is, Sarah, you said you created a list, but you can actually create a list on Facebook for those of you that don't know. I have lots of lists. I have my client list. I have people that live in Austin. I have, I actually have a list of funny people. And
that's smart.
Yeah. You
if
can
I'm
go
not
there.
on that, you are dead to me.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm number one on that list.
And then, so awkward.
Because I'm not on it. That's basically your way of saying
I don't know. I'll have to look. I'll have to look.
Okay.
And then you can also do your favorite people on Instagram. I don't know if you guys knew this, but you can have a favorite people list on Instagram too. So
that's awesome.
I just showed that to my husband this week.
And you could show your stories just to your favorites if you want.
Love it.
It's also a good opportunity to catch stressors. Sometimes people will post stressful things that are going on in their life that they may not be sharing with the team. So it's a good way to catch some of that and show care and candor before it gets to where it's impacting them inside of the team too.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. And let's just really quick talk about the vague book. When they post a vague quote on Instagram or Facebook that is clearly they're upset about something or something's happened. I always take that opportunity to like text them or call them and say, is everything okay? Are you good?
Yeah.
And, half of the time they just like to quote or whatever. And then the other half of the time they're like, whatever. But for sure. Where they're almost like looking for you to ask.
Yes.
What's
so true.
Well, it is no coincidence that I am going to read number 4.
That was intentional, Bija.
I know. Number 4 is names matter. And may I add, pronunciation matters.
Yes.
So, full disclosure, my name is Via, spelled Vija. And, I am very sensitive to mispronouncing other people's names for obvious reasons. And, this might sound like an odd thing to say for those of you with, one person show or really small organizations, but as your organization grows and as your client base grows, by the way, you run into a client in Starbucks and they're out of context. It's challenging, right?
Yeah.
When that's your whole business. So it's not just your organization, but you have to figure out how to remember names. And it's really, really hard for me. I can remember someone's face and they're, that they have a Shih Tzu dog and 3 kids and where their kids go to school and not remember their name,
Yep.
So I do think that social media helps with this, because you're constantly, if you have, and I like your guys' idea of a list, if you have them on social media and you're following them. And honestly, I just ask, even if I know them pretty well, I'll go, hey, I just want to be sure. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yep.
I just want to be sure. Because there's people who think they're pronouncing my name right and they'll be like Vija. And it is mortifying. Like 3 months in, they're still pronouncing it wrong. And then it gets awkward for me.
Yeah.
It's just a super awkward situation. So don't feel shy asking them how to
The
pronounce their
DC
name.
area is like a melting pot of people. So my team is made up of tons of different ethnicities and from all around the world and different names. And I have found that they really respect it when you ask.
I do.
When you
Absolutely.
first attempt.
Mhm.
And did I say that right? And they respect that more than just continuing to fumble
To
over their
pronounce it
name.
the wrong
And
way.
also don't
Right.
forget that just because you're a Matthew doesn't mean you want to be called Matt. Or if you're a Patrick, you don't want to be called a Pat.
True. Good point, Wendy. So good.
Really
and then
good point.
as your business sort of grows and you have more people and more names to remember, like I take time and memorize people's names and connect something with their name in my head, like to where when I see them, it comes up. And, that's something that has meant a lot to some of my team members is like, wait, you know my name? And I'm like, of course I know your name, but it's because it matters to them. Their name matters. Yeah. And so to build a relationship, you need to know their name.
It's the sweetest word, someone's own name.
Yep.
So that is pretty self-explanatory. Number 5 is find a common interest. And this is an interest that doesn't pertain to work, right? So going back to social media, I think social media helps because you can kind of walk in sometimes knowing already what they're going to be. But also, kids are a common ground. Such a large percentage of people have children or grown adult children or kids in general. I find that's good. And my hack on this, guys, is I will keep notes on my iPhone on important people in my life because I just can glance at that before I have a meeting and just have a cheat sheet. What do you guys do?
Do you do that before every podcast?
Yeah, I go, okay, wait, her name's Wendy. Her name's Sarah. They like walks on the beach and pina coladas.
Yeah, like
she is on my funny
Just
list.
curious.
I think too, the other part that you can do as a leader is be a connector of common interests. So if you're in
You are
tune
so
with
good
that,
at this, Say.
I love to be able to, like, if I know, like, Jamie on our team is a master gardener and somebody else is really working on healthy eating, right? Like, you can connect the two together and be a connector and some of those things too, and really taking those relationships on your team to a deeper level, not just, being the one that holds the keys to the kingdom, but connecting those and creating community inside of your organization, I think is a really powerful thing that you can do too. Number 6 is something I love, which is to catch them doing something right.
Yes.
And I think this is especially important to catch someone doing something right when they don't know anyone is watching. And so a couple of things that we've done in our organization is like when anyone in the leadership team sees somebody doing something special or unique or going out of their way, we've done some systems publicly that are great. Like we have a Lifesaver Award every month we give out and a couple of things that we give public recognition on.
What's the Lifesaver Award?
The Lifesaver Award is that we have 2 awards, actually. One is the Lifesaver Award, and that is where the team votes on a person that has gone above and beyond to help other team members during the month. And then we actually have the Terry Bradshaw Award, which is accidental because someone on my team thought that they, instead of calling me Carrie Bradshaw, called me Terry Bradshaw. So I get to give that award out. And the Terry Bradshaw Award, I just embraced it. I was like, yeah, I'm Terry Bradshaw. Absolutely.
I knew you reminded me of someone.
I know. So the Terry Bradshaw Award is mine now. And I get to give out the Terry Bradshaw Award. And that is for someone who maybe has gone unnoticed, right? And has really gone above and beyond. And a great example of that is like our financial manager this last month, right? It was when we were doing everything, had to get out all the 1099s and the payroll, and all of her software system crashed in the middle of it. And she had to completely rebuild everything without telling anyone. But no one knew that it had happened. Right.
Yeah.
No one knew that she did that. No one knew that she was going through all of that chaos. They didn't notice their payroll affected or anything. And she saved the day in making sure it all happened for them without making a peep, right? That's a great Terry Bradshaw moment. I think the other part on this though too is with everyone on our team, we keep a list of favorite things and we actually have them fill out a survey. And it's, favorite restaurant, favorite candy, favorite everything, right? And so when they're doing something that is remarkable or neat, it's great to know that, our director of operations loves Dolly Parton, right? And she did something remarkable last month. And so I sent her this adorable Dolly Parton coffee mug, right? Because that's totally her love language. But so having that list of favorite things is a great cheat sheet to be able to do that too.
maybe this is a little bit of a non sequitur, and I don't want to interrupt you, Seychelle. But I think that maybe that there are some people who are feeling like this is a soft skill and this is not how I drive my business and this isn't important. And I think it's just a reminder for us that soft skills in leadership are actually the most important skills.
Yeah.
And if you aren't thinking about this and taking the time for it, like if your day is so full where all you're doing is doing, and you're not doing any thinking, there's no white space, there's no time to interact with anyone, all you're doing is doing, you're going to continue to be in a pattern of where people come and go, people come and go, people come and go. And I see that, I've seen that in other real estate teams in my office, where the rainmaker, the leader is the driver and the worker. Right?
Yep. Yes.
And never, ever taking the time to lead. And in this pattern of where people just continue to leave. And I'm actually just having a big aha here because some of you guys don't know, but the Keller Williams has a new holding company. It's called KWX. And Carl Liebert is the new head of the holding company. And I don't know him, but Jay, my husband, has had several coffees with him and has shared with me some of his leadership things that he's done. And he used to have like thousands of people over to his house, not all at once, but like he would have people over to his house every single Wednesday. And here's someone who was the head of Home Depot, right? Here's someone who would visit hundreds and hundreds of stores every week. And so I'm actually having an aha while I'm listening to this. And this is actually what he's doing is he's developing relationships with people. And he's so invested in his people that he's had 15 leaders that have been underneath him go on to become the head of Fortune 500 companies.
So the key there that what I'm hearing,
powerful.
Wendy, that is that's remarkable.
Yeah.
And the key that I'm hearing there is he made time. He time blocked it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that it needs to be on your schedule, right?
Your
so
schedule.
that was his Wednesday, right? That was on his schedule. There was sort of a phase in our company where like people were talking about like if someone comes into your office, you turn the time thing. Do you guys remember that? Okay.
Yep.
That was,
Okay, so
I'm not going to say who it was.
Don't do that.
Very stressful.
Don't do that. Okay, but you can do this and control your time though. You can be a relational leader and control your time. And the key is having time on your schedule that is relationship building, right? I have open space that is my relationship time where I make sure I get up, right? And go walk around and talk to people. And it's in my calendar. So making sure that it's in your calendar. I know we're sort of getting off topic, but I love that. That gave me chills, Wendy. But also in terms of catching them right, one of the things that's really important is, I follow a 3-to-1 ratio. 3, catching them right at doing something amazing, to the 1, hey, I would like to see you improve in this area, right? So like systematizing shout outs, thinking of good news. What are the good things my people have done that day? Making it public as you can go, really makes a difference. But catching them doing something right is just huge.
So Sarah, is that like a loose? I mean, do you actually keep track of that, or is that kind of loosely in your head what you try to aim for?
But a little bit of both. It's something I've been at it now for about 7 to 8 years. So it has become natural, but it didn't start off that way. So what I noticed, I don't know about you guys, but like if you ever have gotten surveyed after you speak and like there's like 100 good ones and then there's like 2 bad. And what do you think about?
The bad.
Oh, the bad. For sure.
I mean, that's all humans, right? And so we focus so much on the bad. And so it's so important that we take time to focus on the good. And so you got to be intentional about that. So, and which leads us to number 7, which is to be part of their life journey, right? I'm passionate about this one, man, because so many times, when you're working with someone, you're doing life with them.
Yeah.
Right? They go through hard times.
You spend more time with them sometimes than you do your spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So go on the journey with them.
I just got an aha on this one because earlier this week, one of my top, we call them team leaders, branch managers, his wife went into surgery. And I didn't even think twice. And I've never met his wife. We, because of COVID, we haven't had spousal opportunities like normal. And I didn't think twice. And I actually personally ordered the flowers myself. And I just sent them to his wife. And I said, we haven't met, but we adore your husband. And we just really hope you have a great recovery. Love, Via Williams. And then my CEO's name, and texted him that he sent flowers. And my team leader has thanked me 3 times. He said his wife was blown ran away. And it didn't even occur to me. It didn't, it was just a knee-jerk instinctual reaction. Like, she needs flowers. I bet you she hasn't told a lot of her colleagues and she just needs flowers. I've never met her, but, when you say part of their life journey, I just got this aha that when you're so in tune to your people, you just do it naturally. Like, it wasn't a purposeful, honestly, I'd like to tell you it was, but it wasn't really a purposeful action, anyway.
Well, but what was top of mind though is your people and caring about them. And 3 of the 4 of us on this podcast come from multi-generational family businesses.
So true.
And something that I was thinking about when we were writing this episode was family is family, whether you're in great times or in tough times. And to me, what that shows via is, well, really actually 4 of us, Wendy, because you and Jay are married in business together too. So really it's 4 out of 4 of us are all in family businesses. But 3 of us have we're second or third generation. And, when you have family and you're in business and you go through challenges, you're still family at the end of the day with business. And when you go through positive times, you're still family at the end of the day in business. And so to me, what that is kind of a display of is almost this familial love of your people, and their kind of family in addition to that. And I think that that's an incredible gift.
Yep.
That you can give as a leader by not just looking at somebody as one-dimensional, but instead holistically. I think that's awesome.
I know we need to get going, but I feel led to share this story. But we had a dear team member who had been on the team for about 4 years, and really one of our rock star team members, and it was doing a phenomenal job. And he came and sat down with me, and he said, "I'm going to have to part ways with the team." And I was like, and it came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "I hate to tell you this," and his eyes started filling up. He said, "I've got to go put myself into rehab."
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked. And I looked at him and I said, "You don't have to give your notice. I want you to go put yourself in rehab. You're doing the right thing. And I want you to come back healthy." And he did. And his wife sent me a letter and said, "You saved his life because you saw him, and we will forever be loyal to the Reynolds team because it's not just about the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the person."
That's
and
right.
I think that is what we're saying. When we're saying going through life at times, now, of course, if he had just started, let me put that,
he'd earned the right to have the conversation.
He'd earned the right.
He'd earned the
so
right.
That's a big key too. I mean, obviously, but go through life, and bad things happen to people, obviously, that just start as well. But go through life with them and work through it with them, and that you will get so much out of that relationship as you go as well.
I love that so much, Sarah. And I honestly do learn so much from you, watching you interact with your people. I mean, you have such a great love and caring for your people. I learn from you every day. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah,
you guys can't see us, but we were all our tears were at that story.
Yeah.
And then we've got number 8, which is to really invest in your people, right? And again, this is something that people earn the right to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've done several things on our team where we help people build their wealth. We have a Hot Millionaire Club, and we're really invested in helping people build wealth, right? Whether it's through the stock market, whether it's through real estate investing, whatever that looks like. And so, constantly having conversations around wealth, because I do really care. I want people to look back and think, gosh, that person made a real impact in my life,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and I get messages like that. I got one just
You're
the other
amazing
day from my very
That was
first
so cool.
buyer agent, from 10 years ago. And, we're not in business anymore, but I want to have that impact wherever that looks.
I love that about you, Wendy. And, in addition to the tangible, right? That's like a tangible, they can look back and see that their bank account, right, or their net worth grew directly because of your relationship with them. I think it's also an opportunity for us to grow the soft skill too, and asking them, where do you want to go? Right? We've had our director of ops 7 years ago came in and tried to give her notice because her husband was getting relocated out of state. And instead of accepting her notice, we shredded it up and rewrote her job description so she could work remotely.
I love that.
I basically said, no, you're not allowed.
I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah,
I did that to my top
Yeah,
team
it's like
leader,
all
too.
of
I'm
us are
nope,
sitting here.
I don't
It's like,
accept.
I reject your pink slip and I will see you a new job description. So, it's like, but I think about that on like, what are our team members' growth plans, right? Where can we help somebody grow? Whether it's learning how to be a better leader, whether it's like, I think about our team member that's been with us 18 years. She's gone from part-time virtual assistant to running our admin team to being our first buyer's agent, first listing agent. Now she's almost a full-time real estate coach, right? And can live anywhere in the world. Like, how can you grow and develop with your people in their bank account? Yes. And also in their soft skills to where they're developing additional skill sets and opportunities and connections because you're helping them and in tune with where they want to go and getting them there.
Yep. And this is really important, especially when they've got some kind of like life thing going on. Yes. So maybe you've got someone who's about to have a baby or someone who their kids are graduating or maybe they just got married, right? So it's just a good, every time there's a life change, just think about, hey, having a conversation with them. Like, hey, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And is the path that you're on right now the one that's going to get you there?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Okay, I've been finding a good place to weave in my questions that I wanted to share in the beginning. So I'm going to use this opportunity to do that. But this is, how you can really invest in their lives is through all of the steps that we talked about is you can ask some questions, right? And one of my favorite questions, I was in a car with my boss, essentially my business partner, my CEO. But back then he just owned the office I was in. I was a real estate agent and he was the owner. And we were coming back from a meeting together and I had been pouring in, some value. I mean, I was introducing him to people and such. And I remember we pulled in and he was going to drop me off. And he goes, wait. And he goes, what do you want? What do you want? I go, what do you mean? He's like, I want to know what you want.
I love that.
And we ended up having like a 15-minute talk about my future and my career, and no one had really asked me that direct of a question. So it's a question I ask people now. I go, what do you want? And they say, what do you mean? And I said, I just want to know, what do you want? What do you want in life? What do you want in this career? What help me, in your deepest, wildest dreams, what would the next 3 to 5 years look like? Because at the end of the day, your people are here with you because they think they're going to hit their own life goals through you as a vehicle.
Yeah.
And so all of this is really enhancing that, right? And making that relationship so that you're winning and they're winning. I mean, that's really what this is all about, right?
That is awesome.
Beautiful. Beautifully said.
Love it.
Well, guys, this is honestly, I'm so passionate about this topic. And so I apologize that I interrupted so many times on this episode.
It was good. It was good to interrupt.
So I just love this. But the key things, I'm just going to run through them as we end this episode out. Know their story. So what is your story? Know their story. Learn what makes them tick. Learn all about them. Connect on social media. Follow them. Create that list that Wendy talked about, or favorites. I just learned on Instagram. Names matter, as Vija. No, it's Via, people. As Via said so beautifully, find something in common. Everyone has one thing in common with someone else. So find it, right? And connect with them on that. Catch them doing something right. I love the awards that Say mentioned. Be part of their life journey. We're doing life together as we're working together. So be part of that with them. And then, of course, what Wendy honestly is the leader. I view her as the top leader in, honestly, our industry and investing in her people. And as she said so beautifully as well. So make sure that you are out there building the relationship. One of my favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou. And she says, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And on the Empire Building podcast, we're about building big businesses, but we're about building big lives. Mm-hmm. And it's not just your life, it's your people's life. So help them build a big life. And you do that by being in relationship with them. So get out there and go care for your people. Bye, guys.
I love it.
Love that.
Love it.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Empire Building. If you like what you heard, join our tribe by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform and help us spread the word by leaving a 5-star rating and review. Until next time, wishing you a life worth living. And remember, you are an empire builder.